What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on this Saturday. Early afternoon East Coast, still in the morning on the West Coast. Guys, the past couple of weekends, I've been talking. The sites, they work together, maybe not to give us the same slate, and they have diverged today, making it hard on all of us. But I am Brick Devine, here with my good friends. We've got Tim and TJ. TJ, what's going on up there in Canada today?
Oh, not too much. Just prepping things for my first Father's Day tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And then, just living life. Busy. Got some family in town right now. But we got a nice baseball slate today. We got a nice UFC slate today. So I'm looking forward to diving into all of it. We did just get a Roth tweet 1 minute ago about the weather. Was hoping Minnesota would tip their hand here. But as of now, I don't know what the game plan is. It's a dry start. The light rain moves in within an hour of first pitch, if not sooner. Moderate rain there shortly after. An on-time start would lead to a soaked game or a long delay. A late start would be a very lengthy one.
So where is that from Roth? I'm trying to find. Is that on the Twitter.com or the X?
Yeah, he tweeted it 2 minutes ago.
All right, so let's see here. I'll bring that over for everybody here to see. All right, so here's the where's the Kevin Roth? All right, I can't get that up for everybody. All right, yeah. So what do we do with the weather here? I've got basically the weather pulled up here because I was hoping on Roth on here. I thought it looks reasonably light to me. If I was looking ahead to the schedule, I think they try to play this game personally. Roth maybe poured a little cold, pun intended, water on that one for me today. So Tim, let's go to you. I guess we'll just get right into that because, pitching Bailey over Minnesota. What do they score? Like 45 runs a game now. So you just might want to use some of these guys. How are you handling this with the layest Roth update?
Yeah, I really wanted to play over in single entry and cash games on FanDuel, but doesn't look like that's going to happen for me in either one. If you're playing large field tournaments in your multi-entering, I have no issue if you want to sprinkle in a little bit over just because he's in such a good spot. And if that game can just go, they play through some rain, he could end up being the top overall pitcher on the slate. So I'm going to go with Shota in single entry and cash. Because I'm not going to risk that weather situation. I'm not, like you said, Roth kind of, poured some cold water on it, like you said. So I'm not crazy about getting any exposure to that game. I also had some interest in some Minnesota bats as well. Definitely, I'm just going to avoid that game now.
Yeah, I still think the game gets in from a batter perspective. I think I was looking ahead at the weather, and it looks maybe like 5:30, 6 o'clock. They could start, a game that would be Eastern time, which is what, 4:30 to 5 o'clock there. That's a very reasonable. They have a game. They play at 1 tomorrow. They could squeeze in a doubleheader on Father's Day, but it's like 100 and humid there tomorrow. Not the greatest conditions either from the opposite way for the players on the field there. Will be interesting. I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than Roth, but I like you on FanDuel specifically, where we have the ability to play Shota. He is by far my top pitcher on the slate. Both the Roto-Grinders projections and the bat prefer over. And the bat specifically doesn't like Shota by a significant margin today. And I've been going against the bat a couple times this year. And I think last week I was down on Gaussman, and that did not work out well for me today. But I just like Shota. His outs prop is, 17.5, but it's almost minus 200. They're basically giving you the 6 innings, which is the quality start. I'm expecting him to have a reasonably good performance here against a very weak St. Louis lineup today. So he's my top play over on FanDuel. Anyone else? This is a different slate here. We'll focus maybe a little bit more on FanDuel than we normally do. Tim, is there anything different you're doing over there at starting pitching with the ability to play? If you're souring on Ober and some of those Minnesota bats, the Cleveland-Toronto game isn't really something we're going to go for pitching. It's really just Shota.
That's basically it for me, Briz. It's basically just Shota. So I was gonna say, obviously the whole Ober situation, but for me, that's a fade for me now. So it's really just Shota. That's like the only big thing. I'm not really into any of these early bats. I'm not really into any cut. I mean, I guess the Cubs are somewhat interesting. But that's really it. I don't have a lot of interest in this Cleveland Toronto game on either side of it. And so it's really just Shota and maybe some Cubs bats that really are different than DK.
What about DK for starting pitching? Because you've got a roster too. I think I would have no problem if you want to play Grayson Rodriguez on FanDuel. I think he's fine. On the shorter slate where you don't have Shota, he's probably the overall top option. Flaherty, if he was facing basically anybody but Houston, he would probably be my top one. But Grayson's been pretty good, pretty consistent. He's at home. I like Philadelphia to get the win here. He's done it not really against the greatest teams. If you try to look back through his schedule, it's been pretty easy. This is probably one of the tougher tasks he's had all season with Philadelphia. But on DraftKings, I think he's going to be my horse. But what about you over there? And then SP2 as well.
Yeah, I'm not completely sold on Grayson. He might be, sometimes I play a little bit different. I'll play a cash game team and then a single entry team. He might just be my cash game SB1. I'm a little bit concerned about his ceiling in this matchup, though. So, like in large field GPPs, I am not at all excited to play Grayson Rodriguez. The teams that he's been dominating are absolutely awful offenses. So if he's going to be 33% in large field GPPs, I would come in under that, to be honest with you. I might take shots on Aaron Getty and maybe Sandoval as my two pitchers in single entry, even Jack Flaherty. I don't mind taking shots on, even though he's in a horrible matchup. Creighton, she wrote up Keaton Win at 5,800 against the Angels. You could go something like Arrighetti Win and pay up for all the bats that you want. I don't mind that at all whatsoever. Ryan Pepio has the second highest K prop on the entire slate. And he's only 7,800. So I think
he's chalky.
What's that?
I'm so mad he's chalky. I thought he was going to be coming in relatively low owned today, and I was so ready to just. I mean, I am super overweight on him anyways, but I was hoping he was going to be like 15%.
Yeah, I thought the Arrighetti with Arrighetti coming in, I thought that was going to steal some of his ownership, but it really hasn't done that.
It bumped it up. It bumped it up like 10% without Verlander.
Yeah, Pepio, he is my SP2. I have Grayson and Pepio on my DraftKings cash team as it stands right now. I like Pepio. He's been getting the strikeouts against the good offenses, right? He's the opposite of Grayson Rodriguez,
right?
In some of his recent games that he's been playing here, and he has the strikeout upside. Atlanta's down to a lot of secondary and tertiary players in their lineup right now, so the lineup's much weaker than it usually is. They've been really falling off as of late, so I think Pepio's a pretty good spot here. What's your overall tournament look like, TJ? What's the pool look like? With this being maybe a little bit more FanDuel show, do you have any takes over there with the DraftKings slate being a little bit more condensed at 4:00?
Yeah, no big takes. I agree with you guys that Shota Ibenaga would be the only player I'd be playing from the early games, and I would just be fading everything else entirely and just waiting for the afternoon slate because it gives you some more time, gives you a couple lineups we don't have yet, and there's nothing really all that enticing in that first set of games. Maybe a little bit of Blue Jays in Cleveland, maybe a little bit of Chicago and Minnesota. I mean, yeah, if we knew that they were going to be going, but we really don't for sure yet. So Ibenaga would really be the only priority there for me. On DraftKings, I am doing some. I wish Will was on the show today because I'm playing spicy, and Will always likes when I say that. So I have 0% Grayson Rodriguez, hit the X button. I have 0% Jack Flaherty, I hit the X button. I have 0% Charlie Morton. I hit the X button. My most expensive pitcher today is Patrick Sandoval. I have 70% Pepio. I'm playing Arrighetti, Sandoval, Win, and Hertz as the other four pitchers in my pool. Total of 5 pitchers. That's it. I'm spreading out at offense, but only 5 pitchers in my pool today. Pepio is my clear SB1 with Arrighetti and Sandoval as my next 2 highest owned, and I have 25% each. Keaton Win and DJ Hertz.
So why the X's on Grayson, Flaherty, and Morton?
I feel like I just don't like any of them, and they're all highly owned. Like Flaherty would be the one I'd want to keep the most, just because even though the matchup's tough, I do still think he's got a lot of upside. He's pitched so well this year But Rodriguez and Morton for their ownership just feel like very easy fades to me. And then Flaherty, it's more just because he's more expensive than everybody else I'm playing. So this just allows me to spend up for all of the bats I want. I'm playing a lot of Philly going up against Grayson Rodriguez today. A very low floor, high ceiling differentiated lineups for me today.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't, because I didn't have anything up on scores and odds, but I do like Baltimore to win this game. I think pretty easily, mainly on the back of their offense, not maybe so much the starting pitching. I like them to put a bunch of runs up.
Baltimore is my highest owned stack today.
Yeah, I would agree with a take like that. Tim, if you had to dig down deep in the tournament pool on DraftKings, I think Hertz would probably be about.
Tarp is on in Minnesota, but they have not announced a late start yet. So Roth is saying he thinks it's likely to either be a very long late start or a postponement, because they just put it back on and the game's supposed to start in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And so they're not planning on starting on time, but they have not announced a late start.
Yeah, so if the tarp just went back on the field, that's probably at a minimum of a delay. So this would be my take on if there's like a delay coming. It would either be the game won't go till 5:36 Eastern, would probably be about the start time if they're going to start in a delay. That brings in the PPD discussion, a postponement. They could just push it to tomorrow. They could have a doubleheader on Father's Day. I'm sure a lot of dads would love to go to a doubleheader for a baseball game. That sounds pretty fun, actually. But it's going to be very warm, very humid there tomorrow. So that's just the latest on the weather in Minnesota. I think with them putting the tarp back onto the field, Tim, I would be firmly off of the starting pitching in that game. Too much having to wait till after all 4 o'clock games start to even know in theory if they were going to do a PPD is just a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, I'm completely off that game. I just can't go there. It's too risky for me in cash and single entry. Your question was how far down would I go for SB2 on DK? Yeah. For me, it would be Keaton Wynn going up against the Angels. We have him the bat has him for 13.5 fantasy points, which on this pitching slate is really good for 5.8K. He's going to come in lower owned than he's going to come in lower owned than Aaron Getty, Pepio, all those guys. You're going to save two grand. He would be the guy for me that I would go bargain shopping for.
All right, let's get to some offense in general. You mentioned the Orioles. They're definitely my favorite offense today as well. They are expensive. This is probably why you're going with some of the cheaper pitching, TJ. What's the overall thoughts on offense today?
We are 7 likes away from our first set of Spidey Bombs. I told the chat I'd get them. The first one's at 40 likes. The second one's at 60 likes. Third one at 80 likes. So let's keep smashing the like button, getting them up here. And then for offenses today, Baltimore is my favorite. They are my highest owned stack on the slate. And outside of them, because I'm getting a lot of cheap pitchers, I'm getting a lot of expensive offenses. And when I'm getting a lot of expensive offenses, it leads me to be playing the offenses against some of the chalkiest and best pitchers on the slate. So I'm getting a lot of Houston against Flaherty. I'm getting a lot of Philadelphia against Grayson Rodriguez today, just because they're expensive and they got high upside and nobody's playing them today. I'm playing a lot of Padres and a lot of Milwaukee Brewers, and then some sneaky teams I like today. I like Cincinnati. I like Washington, and I don't mind getting to some Miami or Detroit either.
Tim, real quick, offense in general for you?
Orioles for me are the top stack on the board. I just want to say, if Pepio's
game has been postponed.
All right.
Okay.
Yes,
well, that's okay. All right.
Get your twins out, guys.
Yeah, get your twins out. Get your
Brick comes in pre-show. I think Roth is too. I was going to say that
after the show.
I have a better read on this than Roth. He says he's got it as orange, but this game is going to play. I'll give you a bunch of different reasons I can guarantee this game will play.
I was going to wait till after the show, TJ. But yeah, thank you.
I had yellow orange in my head, but Roth has one out on this one. All right, Tim, real quick, offense. What were you going to say on Pepio?
Well, I was going to say Pepio is going to get steamed up in terms of ownership, which he's going to get even more ownership now because now we've lost Ober on FanDuel. So Atlanta, I know they're watered down, but if they're going to get lost in the shuffle, I really like them in GPPs. I still like Baltimore more in a vacuum, but they'll be significantly more owned. So if Pepio's going to get ownership, I absolutely love the Atlanta stack today. I agree with TJ. I think the Padres are a really great stack. They're going to go a little bit under owned, I would imagine. Yeah, and then I also like Milwaukee. Don't mind some of these like power hitting Astros against Flaherty, even though it sounds pretty bad because Flaherty's been outstanding this year. But I don't mind getting to like a couple one-offs of the Astros as well.
All right, let's go position by position. Catcher Tim, mainly more on DraftKings, probably not throwing that out in cash on FanDuel today. What are you doing? Because to get a 5,900 on, I mean, some of the best bats today are probably catchers in general. If you think about it, between Rutschman and Contreras, just very expensive to get those today. So are they making your team, or are you going mid-tier, or just completely punting?
Yeah, I just can't justify paying almost $6K for catcher. I don't disagree that they're one of the better hitters on the entire slate, but I just can't do it. So I'm probably gonna go with Drew Malas or Gary Sanchez. It's gonna be one of those two guys for me in cash games. Wouldn't mind Tyler Stevenson either at 3,600. I think you can play him in any format, but really, Contreras and Rutschman, I guess if you have the money, but I don't know if you should have that money for that high salary in cash games.
Yeah, the Washington catcher, Malas, just 2,100 total punt. Get some of the bigger bats at the other positions, especially if you're paying up for at least one of maybe a Grayson or something like that. Just seems to fit a lot of lineups on DraftKings today. TJ, anyone in particular? Are you getting more of the expensive bats at catcher? Their ownership, I don't know. It's not all coming in clear on my screen. But what's your ownership percentage look like across catcher?
I am getting a lot of the cheaper guys today. I'm getting expensive guys today. Contreras is my highest owned. Sanchez is too, though. With Adley Rutschman as my third highest owned catchers today. Outside of those guys, it's mostly in stacks, but Yainer Diaz, Tyler Stevenson, little Logan O'Hoppe, and I don't mind going cheap all the way down like a Nick Fortes or something like that.
All right. First base, Tim, a couple ways you can go on both sites today. So on FanDuel, I like the Rays pitcher a little bit on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, some of the Braves, right? You've got Austin Riley, who finally had a good game for the first time all season, last time out. You've got Matt Olson's a little cheap too on FanDuel, so you can get to them. They're probably out of my overall price range on DraftKings, though. Olson's 5,600. That's a lot different than 3,200 on FanDuel. How are you differentiating between the two sites today?
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of interest in Matt Olson on FanDuel. I also have a lot of interest with Ryan Mountcastle on FanDuel as well. I think both of those guys would be my two favorite first basemen. Wouldn't mind if you played both of them. Put one in the util on FanDuel.
Are you looking at my screen, Tim?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. But I really wouldn't mind playing both those guys. I think they're both way too cheap. So Olson definitely is great. But yeah, you're right. On DK, probably not going to happen. I love Ryan O'Hearn. I don't know what his home run odds are yet. I haven't looked, but if they're good, I want to bet it. So I really like Ryan O'Hearn today. I don't think first base.
You can get a plus 650 on Caesars and MGM right now.
What about DK?
600.
Yeah, okay. I'm definitely gonna bet that in like 2 seconds here. But yeah, so I love Ryan O'Hearn. I don't mind Rhys Hoskins either at 41 on DK. The bat's pretty high on Jake Berger. You could play him at first base, third base. I think that's really about it. I think you're living kind of in this like mid-4, low-4 range for cash at first.
Yeah, that's where I am. Speaking of home runs, TJ, are we there with the likes yet? And then give me what we're looking at first base from a tournament perspective.
We got enough likes for Spidey Bomb number 1, and it is in fact a first baseman today. Plus 450, Bryce Harper to hit a home run. He is Spidey Bomb number 1 going up against Grayson Rodriguez, 13 likes away from Spidey Bomb at number 2. And then in terms of other first basemen I like today, I do want to say as well, just kind of going back to pitcher for a second, I'm going to be loading myself up on some DJ Hertz today. Have you seen the Miami lineup that just came out?
That is so bad.
No Jazz Chisholm, and just like the back half of the lineup is just horrendous. I got to be making sure I'm getting to myself a little bit more of these 5K pitchers that I was before. And Hertz, I'm going to be bumping up a little bit here right now, making sure I get at least 30% of them.
It hasn't updated on Plate IQ. I'm sure it'll come across in just a minute.
I might like her. I might like hers more than Win now.
Just as the cheap play, just
like that lineup is bad.
Yeah.
So as soon as it updates on Plate IQ, I'll bring it up for everybody to see. I got a plus 540. I can play on Bally's here in New York for Bryce Harper home run.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh yeah. So I want now I can only bet $9.89, but that's all
I mean, still that's fine. That gives you a nice return on a home run.
I mean, yeah, it's whatever, but
I bet like 15 players, parlay them all and do $1 each. So that's my home run betting strategy.
Yeah, you have to, you have to do parlays on your site or something? I forgot, right?
No, it does. I can do singles as well there.
All right. Get a couple more likes. We'll get some more home run odds. Let's go to second base, Tim. For me, we got Brandon Lau, both sites. Seems to be the play of the day against Charlie Morton between the walks, a little bit of upside. Maybe some power there. Hasn't really come through for him too much this year, but he's just too cheap. Both sites fits in nicely. That's my guy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Brandon Lau is definitely the cash game second baseman. There's other ways that you can go, in tournaments, but I really think second base, other than maybe like Albies, is really kind of like an only in stacks type position. It's really not that strong at all. So it's maybe Albies as a one-off, and then other than that, for me, it's really an only in stacks type position today.
Yeah, very weak. Westberg's having a pretty nice season. I don't mind him, but he's expensive, and you can, if you had to, you can throw. I think he's third base eligible on DraftKings too. But Lau's definitely the cash game play. TJ, if the position's weak, is your ownership spread out? Is it concentrated? What are you doing?
I'll briefly go back to first because I forgot to actually give any answers there, but it's basically the same as what Tim said. I love Ryan O'Hearn. I love Rhys Hoskins. Bryce Harper, of course, the Spidey Bomb. Pete Alonso and Ryan Mountcastle, the guys I'm getting to the most there. Second base, Jose Altuve is surprisingly my highest owned guy here, tied with Jordan Westberg. I am getting to a lot of Brandon Lau as well. And then some, a little bit of Vargas, a little bit of Cronenworth, a little bit of Stott, but just mostly guys in stacks outside of Brandon Lau and Jordan Westberg.
Still don't have that. All right, let's go to third base. Tim, what are we doing there? You've got Jake Berger's that multi-positional eligibility, I think on both FanDuel and DraftKings. You could fit him in there. You can spend a couple other ways. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so third base on FanDuel, I think, is pretty easy. I'm going to play Austin Riley at 2,800. I know that he hasn't been great. They finally broke out yesterday, but 2,800 is just way too cheap for Austin Riley. So you're playing him in your Atlanta stacks. You should be playing him in cash. You could also play Jake Berger, I guess, but I really like Riley a lot more than Berger. And then Joey Ortiz, 3,700 on DK, batting leadoff. I think that's a really, really strong play on DraftKings. So I think that's completely fine for cash.
And then TJ from tournaments, what's third base looking like for you?
Yeah, I love the Ortiz call. There's really three guys that stand out here at the position for me, and it's Ortiz, Manny Machado at I just absolutely love as a one-off or part of a stack. And then Heimer Candelario is actually the other guy that I'm getting to a lot. Bryce Wilson is terrible. They got an opener, but Candelario is a switch hitter anyways. I like him a lot today for tournaments.
Yeah, Candelario is mashing over the recent games too, so that certainly doesn't help that he's, I guess, seeing the ball. If Cardi was on here, he would tell you that's not an actual thing. We can't predict hot streaks. But
It's a real
we'll go with
thing,
that.
but we can't predict when it'll start or end.
Yes. All right, let's go to shortstop. One of the reasons we wanted specifically a cheap pitcher on FanDuel while we were looking at Bailey Ober is to get a guy like Gunnar Henderson. I'm finding him pretty much unattainable today, Tim. Maybe you are if you go with a cheaper SP2, or maybe you forgo Grayson Rodriguez on DraftKings, you could get up to it. You've got Willie Adames on both sites, I think, is a reasonable price in the mid tier. Are you playing him against Abbott? Are you doing something else? Or are you trying to go get Gunnar?
I'm trying to go get Gunnar on both sites. I think he's the best bat maybe on the entire slate. Like, we don't have Judge. We don't have Ohtani. We don't have, Acuna is injured, obviously. Not the best spot for guys like Jordan. So I'm actually prioritizing Gunnar. I think he is attainable. You might have to punt a couple positions, but I think there's enough value on both sites where you can do that. So I am prioritizing Gunnar on both sites. I do agree with you, though. If you don't want to do that, I really don't mind Willie Adames on either site. I think that's a completely fine play. But I am prioritizing Gunnar.
Well, if you're spending up at pitcher, would you now consider in cash games Tim Anderson, because he's 2.4K on DraftKings and he's leading off?
I don't think Tim Anderson has been on my radar since last year. He had one good game last year, and of course that was a one singular game where everybody played him. But I don't know. I'm not on Tim Anderson, I think, ever this year.
Yeah, it's just really about no pinch hit rates, 2.4K leading off against one of the worst pitchers on the slate.
Yeah,
I think the opportunity cost of shortstop is very high, so I'm not gonna. I don't like that.
Yeah, between Henderson, Lindor, Adames, even Abrams, Rogers is a horrible pitcher. I mean, one of those guys is going to have I would think a pretty big game. So I would lean on Tim's side against Tim Anderson. Where is Tim Anderson? Is he someone popping up for you at shortstop, TJ?
Not a ton, just because I don't need the salary savings, but I am getting him a little bit as a one-off here, or even as part of a mini stack with like Dela Cruz and Berger alongside of him. But my highest owned guy is Gunnar Henderson by a lot. I have 33%. I have 21% Ellie Dela Cruz. So Ellie and Gunnar are the two guys I'm spending up on a ton here. They make up 50% of my ownership. Outside of them, it's Willie Adames, it's Francisco Lindor, little Jeremy Pena, little Tim Anderson, and CJ Abrams, and then just a few guys in some stacks. But I'm looking at one-off this position a lot, mainly with Gunnar and Ellie.
Where are we in terms of Spidey Bomb number 2, TJ?
We are at 59 likes, and that means we are 1 like away from Spidey Bomb number 2. Come on, guys. There's over 200 of you watching. We should easily be able to get this up to over 80 for the third Spidey Bomb. If you get it to 100, I even got a fourth. But Spidey Bomb number 2, we just talked about him, plus 500 on DraftKings. Heimer Candelario.
Yeah, let me see what he's at on the best sites. So hold on, my odd screen's not working there. I'll have to go find him in just a second for you to make sure. But 500 on DraftKings with him hitting as well as he is certainly looks good. A couple things I want to tell you guys about before we change positions here into the outfield. Roto Grinders Premium, you can sign up to it for NBA, PGA, NHL, NBA, MLB, WNBA. You can get a combo subscription, an exclusive price of $469. That's a savings of $250 instead of buying it month by month. If you want your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, you've never been a subscriber before, you can get it for $40 off. And if you want to give it a test run for just 3 days, you can get it for $19.99. Make sure to go check that out for Roto Grinders Premium. Into the outfield, Tim. So once that Braves lineup came out, Jared Kelenic is cheap on both sides. He's leading off. He's going to be in there for the whole game today. And I posed you this question pre-show. A Rosarina on both the Roto Grinders and the bat projections is really popping off today. But that dude has had a pretty horrible season today. So this is mainly more, the price difference is very different on DraftKings today. So more so on FanDuel, which locks in just a few minutes. What are we doing over there for a cheap bet? You probably need a cheap outfielder today. Who you got between those two, or are you looking at someone else?
I'm playing Jared Kelenic, but I mean, I completely understand if people want to follow the projections. They're there for a reason. But I'm going to go Jared Kelenic for just $100 less than a Rosarina. So, that's who I'm going to do as my cheap outfielder. And then on the expensive end, I think you're playing Fernando Tatis in cash games, and then it's really a whole bunch of pretty strong options, but no really elite outfielders today. Really outside of Tatis. I mean, you've got Ozuna, who's okay, but he's better against lefties. You've got Alvarez, but he's got a tough matchup against Flaherty. Schwarber, tough matchup against Rodriguez. I think Riley Green at 3K is a really strong play in all formats against Aaron Getty. I don't mind getting to Cody Bellinger on the FanDuel slate at 3,300. I think he's a really strong play. But really, nobody sticks out to me as somebody that I would want to be like heavily overweight on in terms of one-off. So it's really just guys as part of your stack.
And TJ, I'm going to raise your 500 on Heimer to a 550 on Caesars. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right, we'll get on that one. A couple more guys will follow TJ in on the Spidey bombs. Outfield for me, I'm on Kelenic over a Rosarina on FanDuel. I like Kelenic on FanDuel or on DraftKings as well. Like Tim, Tatis is probably my favorite outfielder. I like him over Jordan Alvarez if you're spending up. And I think Profar is reasonably priced enough on DraftKings to make him someone. He's 3,600 on FanDuel, but he's just 4K. He's hitting, third, gets on base a lot of different ways. He's having one of the best seasons of any hitter in baseball. And at 4K, that's someone I want exposure to the San Diego offense today. I know what's the rankings? The least heart. I forgot what it was on what is that, Tim? I forgot what it was. Gutless rankings. I know the Padres are always up there. So playing too many Padres is never a good idea, but I do like Tatis and I do like Profar. I think Profar's total bases was plus 160 today. I do like that if it's still basically around that as a couple of bets to make. In FanDuel, you think of Lane Thomas, right? I think he's 3K. Would you rather play him or Riley Green? I'm having a pretty tough decision there, Tim.
The answer is Lane Thomas because he is Spidey Bomb number 3, also plus 500 today. We got 80 likes. Let's get this up over 100, though. We got like almost 300 people on YouTube. So almost 700 people overall across the sites. Let's get these likes up above 100. I got one more Spidey Bomb for the people. But play Lane Thomas in that scenario because that's Spidey Bomb number 3 right there.
Yeah, I like Lane. You can get 500 on MGM and Caesars. 475 on Tim's DraftKings for everybody. Anything looking good for you in the outfield today, TJ?
Thomas is my highest owned play today. I like Jordan Alvarez and Kyle Schwarber a ton in tournaments at really low ownership today in the tough matchups. Get into a lot of TJ Friedel and Anthony Santander. It's a lefty-lefty, which isn't great, but Andrew Abbott is also a big fly ball guy. And Christian Yelich is a big ground ball guy. I don't think many people are going to be paying up for him in tournaments today. Absolutely love getting to him in my Brewers stacks. Tatis, of course, it's mostly the expensive guys, like I said, because I'm paying down at pitching. And then like all the Baltimore players, Kauser, Mullins, they're going to get in my stacks. I like Brandon Nimmo as part of a stack or a one-off. And then Riley Green, don't mind him either.
A couple of bets I got. If you were looking, nothing on scores and odds, I mentioned Profar. I've got a Baltimore Cubs parlay that's like plus, 150-ish, I think is what you can get it around. So those were a couple of the bets I was looking at today. We've got a couple of questions. There's one in the live stream chat on Discord. Sherman wanted to know, FanDuel cash, Tim, Hoskins and Lindor or Bellinger and Suzuki?
The second one.
Yeah, these are all guys that were like if I needed 3 more spots on FanDuel, I would find ways to get all of them. None of them are on my cash team, but I would also go with the second one. I would take some of the Cubs today as well. Greatness wants to know, FanDuel, how do you feel about the Cubs today? So we just talked about them from a tournament perspective. TJ, what would you be doing with the Cubs today? They've got almost a 5 total, one of, if not the highest on the slate right now, basically right in line with Baltimore.
Yeah, I think they're totally fine. I would be including them in a similar tier as like Washington and Washington and the Mets, maybe the Reds. So like kind of like a tier 2 or 3 stack for me over on FanDuel.
Let's see. YouTube. Jerry wants to know FanDuel cash Rutman, Tatis, and Adames, or Henderson, Tatis, and Mullins. So it's basically Henderson and Mullins, or Rushman and Adames. So
I'd go Henderson Kelenic if you don't already have him.
Instead of Mullins, he's out there too.
Yeah, I'd rather go Kelenic because he's the same price as Mullins. So if you already have Kelenic, then I would still go the Henderson Tatis one.
Let's see here if we've got any other questions. Lane Thomas or Green? Someone asked that one. There's a couple questions there. Let me go back to the Discord. Hurts for FanDuel single entry or Grayson, right? So do you want to spend up or go all the way down, Tim, to get some of the batters that you want today? I wish this was last year's offense. Then we could have all the bats that we want. You know, if it helps you get Baltimore, is that something you'd make a concession for today?
I really don't mind going all the way down. Actually, I just don't think pitching is really that great. So I wouldn't mind going all the way down.
Yeah, real quick, I'll bring up the Plate IQ. I'm sure the Marlins lineup is finally in on Plate IQ here. So you can just look at this. And I mean, I don't think I haven't seen a lineup like this, guys, all year where the WOBA is basically right across the board except for 2 guys with limited at bats, and they're not even really good. I mean, this is the worst Plate IQ offense I've seen all season, right, TJ? This is what you were talking about.
Yeah, I have 35% DJ Hurts on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable take looking at how bad, like how many, maybe Josh Bell makes a couple of Major League Baseball teams and De La Cruz is like a platoon player. Like really, this is a very bad lineup, the Marlins. No wonder they're one of the worst teams in baseball right now. But without Chisholm, I mean, there's really not a Major League hitter on their entire offense right now. Let's see if we've got any more questions. Just a few minutes until lock. Let's see. The Prince wanted to know, everyone's on Gunnar Henderson. I like Gunnar for sure. And then probably Tatis would be one of my next favorite spends. But anyone on Baltimore that top 5, 6 of that lineup for Baltimore today is a very reasonable spend across any position today. Tampa Bay or Detroit, DraftKings single entry as a leverage stack. TJ, what were you doing on that? Because you were picking on, or was that Tim that wanted to pick on maybe use some of the Atlanta plays today? Or is he asking?
Yeah.
He wants to use the Rays or Detroit. So which one would you be?
I don't think either of them are necessarily strong leverage stacks. I don't think that would be the reason you're looking to play either of them. But Detroit would be my favorite of those two.
You don't think Arrighetti's going to get a lot of ownership, DJ?
On not enough to be a leverage stack to me. Like he's going to be 18% projected ownership right now is what we're giving him. Maybe he gets up to the 20s. Like I don't care. Like I'm getting to that naturally for Grayson Rodriguez just because with the Phillies against him, just because I'm playing expensive stacks and the Phillies are expensive. But I wouldn't be looking to really make a strong leverage stack unless somebody's like a 40+% owned pitcher.
Would you rather Arrighetti or Pepio if you're taking a pitcher today, TJ?
Pepio.
And you, Tim?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's Arrighetti for me.
I'm on Pepio on DraftKings, but I'm debating. Is FanDuel going to give us, because the first game's postponed, are they still going to lock it at 210? I mean, we can still swap. It doesn't really matter. So in theory, let me see if you guys have any more questions. We can stick around for a couple of extra minutes. Jack Flaherty get over 15.5 outs today. So yes, I think Scores and Odds, the prop model had that out. And I saw that and I agreed with it because he's like always going over. I think he's 10 of, I saw someone post, he was 10 of 12 this year on the over for that, with the one miss being the start where he left with an injury, and then he got the shot for it. And I'm expecting him to cruise over the over 15.5 outs. So I would certainly like that. That was on the Scores and Odds. I think it was the prop model today. TJ, any last Spidey bombs? Did we get enough likes for that?
No, we did not get up over 100, but three is going to have to do for the people today.
All right, so no extra Spidey bomb here. Let me see. I clicked the like. Were we at 99 by chance?
No.
All right, so Tim, click the like. We'll try to get the last Spidey bomb. Any final thoughts, Tim, maybe on the DraftKings slate? Anything in particular different you're doing over there compared to the FanDuel slate?
Well, I mean, pitching is the huge one because I'm gonna go pretty far down in pitching on DK.
Yeah, hers win. You could use either one of those. Pair them with. Do you have lineups? I'm sure you do, TJ, with both of those to spend all your money on offense today.
Yeah, I have 0 Atlanta stacks actually in my 150 lineup set because I'm getting 70% Pepio. But what I did is I made a single entry in, or like just one team in the 50K $15 tournament. And it was a full stack of Atlanta with Gunnar Henderson alongside them. And I went both cheap pitchers.
All right. Someone's asking about Yahoo, your favorite pitchers. I pulled it up on the screen share. I haven't looked at Yahoo baseball all year, but I would say they just do the all day slate, I believe. Correct. So you've got, I think Arrighetti was min price, someone mentioned there, or the evening slate. I'm not exactly sure over there. But I don't know. It probably would just be the same guys we talked about today. Like if you had to, I haven't looked at the night slate really, guys. Have you? Do you know? Would you take Eovaldi or Yamamoto or Rodon? Jones is in cores. I don't know about any of those guys today.
Yeah, I mean, Eovaldi's in a really good matchup. So is Rodon. It would definitely be those two are my favorite. So really, it's Eovaldi or Rodon for me.
All right. I think that's going to do it for the questions, guys. I think we're done in the live chat. We're done on YouTube. Thanks to everybody for watching the show today. We appreciate it. Click the like button on the way out. For Tim and TJ, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we out, chat.